time, to an extent, being in the vicinity of the lodge does offer that. So I'm not going to say yes or no, but put it this way: it's not impossible that she has the cubs in the general vicinity, which of course it would be great because she would be around quite often. We'd see her at the pan, we'd see her at the washing line, we'd see her around camp occasionally. But she also moves. Keep in mind that once leopard have cubs, they have a den, either normally a termite mound in this area, or if there's a rocky outcrop, that's obviously ideal. If you think back to Rexon's great story the other night at Fireside Chat. And if she then has the cubs, she might keep them in an area for a few days or a week or two, until obviously her movements around could attract attention to them, and then she will move off a little bit further again. But I certainly hope, and I think there's a very good chance or a very good likelihood that if Karula has cubs, shall I maybe say when, that she will be in the area more often. But that could still be 3 months away or so. I'm not convinced that she's pregnant yet, so we'll have to see. Thanks, Sue. It's actually an interesting point, Sue, just letting I said the name earlier. Suso is a nickname, and maybe I'm not saying it quite right, just saying I can call you Sue as well. It's one of the things that I've appreciated personally as well quite a lot on drives over the last few months, is that people more and more are using just their first names. Now, I know a lot of us, and a lot of you, and I've considered using it a lot when I started getting used to the idea that I'll become more and more of a person, if you want, in this world that we're talking in at that moment, is to use different names and nicknames. But ultimately it's just nice. There's a great sense of trust for me in able to call someone by their first name, and ultimately that is a huge part of what we do at Wild Earth. It's just expanding and exploring more and more what we're doing at this moment, talking about things. So thank you for letting me know. There's 18 people on. Thanks, Karen. Karen, I'm sure at some stage or another we'll meet more and more. I know you're very actively involved with everything going on, and it's very appreciated from everywhere, and it's just nice to get you helping me along as well. Saddlebill stork is Megan's favorite bird. It certainly is a beautiful bird. Actually, just for interest's sake, that bird that was there earlier, and maybe he comes back again. Pete, did you see any wildlife yet? Anything on its way? Little birds are always a problem. They tend to be quite flitty. The saddlebill stork we saw earlier, just for interest's sake, was thinking back to memory now, was a male. The females have got a little yellow around the eye, and maybe at some stage into this chat we'll bring a few little aids as well, like Pieter's doing. Unfortunately, I missed the We Learn talk yesterday, and maybe if there's a few comments about it, please send them through and we'll talk about it. But the bits I saw, just in terms of how Pete prepared for it, looked fascinating, and I truly think it's something we've all enjoyed, is what he's brought to this to the aspect of what we see, just with the little inserts and captions and things like that. Down the line, I'm sure that'll become a part of this as well. The crippled buffalo, Rose mentioned earlier, sorry I didn't touch on that. Rose, actually that's a very interesting point, and for those of you that don't know what happened to her, I presume you're referring to that female buffalo that we saw a while back at Buffelshoek Dam. In fact, I'm sure you're referring to it, just because I remember I was sitting there, and it was a very hard thing to watch. You could see this buffalo that was clearly not doing well, and it was a very sad image. We saw it for a few days. Actually, 2 days after the last time we saw it at Buffelshoek Dam, and I can't remember dates, I can hardly remember what I saw yesterday, but about a week ago or so, we saw a herd of buffalo close to Mamba Road. I was with Rexon, and we actually spotted the female joining the herd again. She'd obviously gotten better, so maybe the injury she had was more a big sprain or a very bad muscle damage rather than a broken bone, for instance. So she rejoined the herd, actually. The same female, she was still limping, but she was walking much easier, and she was about 3 kilometers, call it 2 miles or so away from Buffelshoek Dam. So it's quite a happy story, Rose. I'm sure you're happy to hear that. For those of you that joined us on the day will remember that as well. We had a beautiful buffalo sighting, looking at all the details. That's that herd that have got quite a few buffalo in them with sort of yellowish eyes. But actually, do you mind showing us while you look around? This is one of the things, again, it might not be 100% smooth today, but we're going to play around a little bit with just talking to each other as it goes along. And I think just now it's basically just going to show you the look we're having around the area. Get me out of there. Let's have a look around. See you just now. Guys, we're just going to have a look from the other camera. Actually, that's quite a nice view. You've got it now as well. We've got a red-billed buffalo weaver nest in the top corner there. If you look at that, we're now looking sort of northwest, if you want, up the riverbed section that feeds Gari warthol. You can just see the foreground, the tree trunk here, but those nests you can see bobbing in the breeze, that's from red-billed buffalo weavers. Now we've mentioned that a few times around the warthol. Often you can hear them making noise, even though you don't actually see them often. But they make those. We're just going to have a look around from the weaver's nest all the way around. Now we're looking at what will hopefully in a few months be full of water. I know that quite a few of you, if you look at just right below where I'm sitting almost, if that makes any sense, you can, I wonder if we can do that. If I point there, or if I point there, there's a little pan down the bottom, that's just from the flow over. But then if you look the whole area underneath, and to that side especially, yeah, okay, this is just, there we go. Basically, down that way. There. So where my finger is now disappearing, so I will get much better at this still. But that area there, there's the little pan, and then everything going around and to that side. I'm not going to do too much of it now. I'm feeling it's like looking into a mirror. But that'll still all fill up with water, hopefully in the next few months. For those of you that haven't seen Gari warthol full of water, and I know we've had a lot of people join us more recently, it is a spectacular sight. It really fills up nice and big, and obviously lots of larger groups of animals come, herds of buffalo and elephants and so on, and also just the activity around it. Obviously, you've got a much larger body of water, many more things living in it, from fish to insects, and many more things surviving off that. And it just, the more life there is, the more life it attracts, as we've learned. Maybe we should say the more live there is, the more life it attracts as well. That's something we've learned with Wild Earth. Who's that? Someone said, sorry they're late, they've just joined us now. And again, sorry I can't see the names if it's not added, typed in. Yeah, what do you see? Aha! Now this is sort of what we've been waiting for now, that we can get more interactive about physically what's approaching the water. Oh, look at that. I have to swap this monitor to the other side, so we can, at the moment it looks like I'm looking away from this water buck. I should be doing this. Look at those water buck all coming down here for a drink. Jose, yeah, thank you. Sue, just reminding Jose there, if you do type in specifically a question, just to add it into the line, please. Just for the moment, it just makes the name recognition easier. I mean, and at the moment we've got 22 people that are actively participating in this chat. In other words, that are saying things. Sorry if I'm not reading all the things quick enough. Like I said, I'm still just getting used to the space. I love it when the water buck walk into the water like that. That's something we'll change for tomorrow as well. Put the monitor on this side, so I'm actually putting. I love it when the water buck walk into the water like that. Guys, so I'm going to be a little bit silly as well today. It's one of the best ways I've found to relax into a space, is just to not take it too serious and have a bit of a laugh around it. And yeah, beautiful water buck coming down. As much as we were talking just now about Gari warthol filling up, and trust me, when that happens, it will be beautiful, and we'll all be very happy. One of the joys we've had is the closeness of this pan. The fact that we've got two cameras on it, like you can see now, that we can have a close look at that water buck in the water there. I'm sure Pete's going to follow in for that just now, and also the view from the other side. We've really had the ability to really appreciate and feel this warthol quite well. Pete, can we have a close look at that water buck in the water? Both of them, actually, the one walking past as well as the younger one in the water. If you look at the design of this animal, water buck, obviously apart from that white line on the backside, just there, which is something we're quite used to, but they also have very sort of straw-like, almost very coarse hair. And water buck don't live in the water at all, but they do, if there's water by or close by, they'll often stay in the proximity of it. And they are very good swimmers. I've on a number of occasions seen water bucks swim through one of the bigger dams in Pilansberg, actually, quite often in Lingard Dam, swimming across to get away from predators, lions or something like that. And then that coarse hair, which is very bristle-like, enables them to dry off very quickly. What is Anne saying about water buck? Yeah, Anne is just saying when the Gari warthol was still full, she often saw them sort of in the shallows walking around eating those water plants. I forgot the name again. And we often saw them just sort of walking around in the shallows. A lot of birds flying around there as well. Pete, what bird was that? Was it an oxpecker?